Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Community Voices SDGC Special. So, we have incredible speakers from our SDGC conference and five powerhouses who are going to share with you some of the backstories of how they came up with their talk, what are some of the fun anecdotes, and how they're excited for the SDGC conference. I am your host, Sudeshna Mehta, and I'm super excited to bring together this panel for us today. So let's welcome our wonderful guests. Gonna take just a moment. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure everyone is joining us from a different place. Are you excited for the SDGC conference? Or are you already on flight in route? Where are you?
I can tell you that I'm 27 hours from Dallas, which is in Poland, and 27 hours it will take me to go to the conference. So I'm not yet in the flight. But yes, of course, I'm excited. And greetings from Poland.
Amazing. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I think we can start with a bit of introduction from everyone. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, a bit about your background, and also like what does your SDGC kind of talk is all about. So it can be like a 30-second pitch. Who wants to go first? Okay. Please.
Well, I'm happy to, because I don't have far to go at all, because Lisa Hingson, I'm the managing director of innovation and customer experience at Southwest Airlines, and I'm right here in Dallas, ready to greet all of you from coming far away, and excited to be able to work with Service Design to host this right here. I'm giving my talk with Tim Radville, who I will tap next, my friend from Other Tomorrows, who I've had the privilege of working with for, I think, 7 years now. And Tim and I are really excited to talk to everybody about the power of a mock-up and bringing great ideas to life in a really tangible form to make sure that your experience is perfection.
Cool. I can grab it because Lisa, you tossed it to me already. So Tim Radville, partner at Other Tomorrows. We're a small design studio based in Boston that does a lot of experience and service design and brand work. And I'm a brand guy at my heart. So I grew up in traditional brand design and then transitioned into doing more human-centered design, and have kind of found a really happy nexus of like doing brand-centric, I don't know, emotional experiences through a human-centered design approach. Yeah, Lisa kind of gave a heads up about our talk. Like we make big physical mock-ups of airports almost at full scale sometimes, to test complicated things. And as our world gets more complex, like being able to test things is really, really helpful. Being able to build them and let someone walk through them, let someone see them, let someone touch them. It's just indispensable as our world gets more and more crazy and more complicated on a day-to-day basis. So we're excited to talk about it.
That's amazing. I think everyone is going to, as they come to the conference, they're like, please look at all the touch points on your journey when you're coming, because then you can have a lot of questions during their session. And I love that Lisa is already in Dallas and she's waiting there to welcome us with the Dallas team. All right.
Yes. I was there yesterday, and I'm back in Boston, and I'm going back to Dallas. So I'm going back and forth.
That's amazing. All right, Abhishek, can you be next?
Yeah, I'm based in Boston as well. So I think, Tim, we ran into each other in one of the local Boston chapter SDN meets.
Yeah, talking about failed projects, right? That was the things that didn't go according to plan.
That was the thing. Yeah, it's great to see you again. So my name is Abhishek. I'm based in Boston as well. I used to be a design strategist at FedEx and recently moved to a different team. So previously I used to work in the design innovation team where, we used to work on projects that cuts across like regions and different products and different services. And now I'm more focused on the employee experience. So my team owns like the entire prioritization, demand and supply process. So my job is to kind of improve the employee experience of using the process and increase the efficiency of it. It's more internal, but it's still service design, just internal facing for our internal customers, that's our employees. And I'll pass it on to Ryan.
Thanks, Abhishek. Yeah, my name is Ryan Diaz. I am based in Toronto, Canada, but I am very familiar with where we're actually hosting the conference in Dallas. I spend a lot of time with my clients in the US and primarily in Texas. I'm actually going next week to Austin to build on this current customer study that I've been working on for well over a year. I am currently the director of product strategy, but also serve as an advisor for certain startups. And I founded our Center of Practice of AI really just to help enterprises responsibly scale AI adoption. And that's one huge component of my talk around taking pilots into production and scaling that for change. And AI being a big component and its synergies with service design. So excited to share that with everyone. And then I will pass it off to Kate.
Thank you. So I already started that I will have a long journey to Dallas, but also I think when we are talking about the journey, this is what will be the main part of my speech. I'm a service design manager and the leader of a global team of service designers working with UX design, UX researchers and product owners and the business stakeholders inside Equinix. Equinix is a leader in data center industry. And my team, my very first employee in my team actually was from Dallas. He is still there, yes. So if anybody from Dallas is seeing me today, I'm really giving some greetings there. So my heart is in Dallas and Poland and 7 other countries because the team is a global team. So we are working in 7 different time zones, which is nice. But the last sentence will be that the journey that I will be sharing, it's how to went from the IT being attached as a user experience and service design team within the IT to the business transformation side, which was, and it is still a challenging journey, but really important from the perspective of making an impact on the most important services and products inside the company for both employee experience and customer experience. So that will be a story of a journey.
That is incredible. Thank you, everyone, for sharing a little bit about yourself and about the talks that you will be giving during SDGC. I am curious, like when you first got to know about, hey, I'm going to be giving a talk in SDGC, when that email came in, tell me about that moment. How did it feel? Who did you call? And yeah, definitely you did submit it before, but it came a couple of months later. What was it like?
I can go first on that. So I forgot to tell you a little bit about my talk, but it's about designing for multiple contexts or dynamic contexts because logistics is where my company's domain is, and everything's changing all the time, right? If you read the news, you would know that there's trade regulations changing, tariffs, and all of those sort of things. And it's something that we've been kind of thinking through. How do we really align our regions as well as our global experience on the same page? Every team across the globe at FedEx is working really hard to improve our customer experience, but how do we really align them together, right, when things are changing so rapidly? So my talk's going to be focusing on that and about the news of getting selected, right? So one of my biggest champions is my wife. She's a design manager as well. And she really motivated me to kind of apply because she hears me talk about this all the time. And I'm talking to my colleagues, my friends about, different things that I'm doing on my work. I'm really passionate about it, right? So I was like, I took her advice and applied. And I did not really expect much of it, but I was, glad to know that, people are interested in what I need to share. And I'm really, so we, both of us were working from home on the day, and we have separate offices. So I went in, she had a call, she was on a call already, and I was just gesturing her like, got it. And she finally understood what I was trying to say once she, quit the call and then spoke to me. So that was my experience of getting selected. Came as a pleasant surprise, but yeah, really looking forward to it and excited about it.
So that's a very wholesome moment. Thank you for sharing that with us. Um, and who wants to go next? You can also tell us if you just dropped the phone or had
I
some
can
fun moments with it.
I can go because it was quite nice. I went to the email box actually 4 days after getting this email. Why? I was on holidays during the off-road trip. So it was really hard to get any kind of, connection. I was in Greece, Greek mountains. And I knew that it will come, the answer probably within this 2 weeks time, but I was not checking the box. So 4 days after getting this email, I saw it. And of course, I shared it with my team firstly, but I was also having this my memories about the SDN. I was a conference attendee for 3 times, I think, something like this. And I got this kind of goal on my bucket list. Okay, being an attendee, all right, so that's normal, I would say. But speaking, let's do this. Yes. So I was feeling like this year I was feeling probably ready to share some value. That's why I applied. So yeah, that was the story. And yes, a lot of excitement around that and meeting great people, because this is also a goal.
I had a similar experience. I was
Definitely.
also I was very remote, away at a cabin, so I barely had any signal. And the one moment that I got to check, I I had a chance to check, and I got the notification, and it was really exciting and perfect setting for me to take it in. So it was nice. I had the whole weekend to really process and start to prepare my head, taking this concept that I've been working on again for over a year, and now being able to share it with the broader audience.
That is amazing. I love that one was in Greece near the sea, hopefully near the beach, and the other one was in a mountain cabin. What
I was
about you,
actually in
Timmy?
Dallas, I think, when I got the email. Lisa, I don't even know if you know this, but I was across town at a different client in Dallas when I think I got the email about this. I was like, and then I texted you, emailed you. I was like, hey, like, we get to do this thing. This feels like kind of special and full circle for us. So, this process of like building these like full scale mock-ups of airports, the first time we did it was in, I think, 2017, like Lisa mentioned, for a project on digital wayfinding, and that project actually won like the best in private sector award from Service Design Network back in 2018. And we kept doing this, and it feels like a really nice full circle to like having done a project, like gone through this process, been recognized for that work, but now get to like share it back with everyone, like, hey, like, this is how we go through this process to get to this type of result. So there's like a really nice like circle to that story of I don't know, being recognized and now giving back a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, Tim. And I think Tim was the one that tagged me first that we were selected. And I think it's exciting for a few reasons. This is a great organization that brings together so much expertise. So it is an honor to be selected, that the organization would think the topic that we think is important is also important to share with so many creative, talented individuals. So first and foremost, it's an honor. Second, this is a lot of fun for me because Tim and I have worked together for a lot of years, and this is a topic we're super passionate about. And we have seen our work be award winning, and we've seen it fall flat. And our topic is one that we've had the opportunity to use as a way to get alignment and buy-in and make sure that ideas on paper that are award winning make their way out into the world. So it's exciting to share with everybody reasons we think we've had some success, and reasons that others can learn from to ensure that their work always sees the light of day and is successful with the people for which they've designed, and at companies where it can be really hard to get work over the finish line and ensure all the collaboration comes together.
Thank you, Lisa and Tim. It also kind of starts begging the question, like you said, you've been working for so long. What was there a particular moment that kind of sparked that question for y'all, and then y'all were like, okay, this is what we're gonna start building on or exploring? When did that exploration start? Was there a challenge or a surprise realization? What was it like?
So the first one we built, and this nuance isn't part of our talk, but I think that the first one we were working on, like I mentioned, was a mock-up of Dallas Love Field Airport for digital wayfinding and like customer experience in the airport. I think we had a realization working on it as we were like designing flat screens and stuff, is like, I don't know how to test this, right? Like I don't know how to like bring someone through this experience that's so reliant on size and space and sight lines and moving through the entirety of an airport and like seeing something at the end of the terminal that lets you know what's happening. And we just like we can't get feedback on this in a meaningful way without just building the thing. But we can't go into an airport and build it because that's like crazy expensive, right? Like, right, Lisa, like we can't like engage the operations team at an airline to go like, hey, let's go rebuild part of this terminal without a pretty good like sense that this is going to work. So I said we like grabbed an empty warehouse space up in Boston and just like started hanging stuff and stepping back from it and looking at it and like building this at 100 and like with a tape measure, like taping out like, okay, like that's 200 yards, that's 300 yards. Like, can we still see this thing? I don't know. And that was the first version of it. And then we brought some executives through and they're like, oh, wow, like I get it. And I think that was the moment where like the light bulb went off. It's like, oh yeah, like you can get this when you can see it and you can stand here and you can experience it in a way that like just a PowerPoint slide isn't going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Tim's helped me with a couple mock-ups over the years. And there was a couple examples where we had a particular concept that we couldn't get alignment around. And then we made a mock-up and showed how this particular concept comes together with about 5 others to create this dramatically different experience, where this one idea was not just good for one work group, but it actually helped every work group that had to come together to make sure you all have a great experience on our plane. It made actually everything better. So we had a difficult time getting this one concept aligned upon because it didn't seem worth the time or the money or the investment. But when people saw the power of how this one concept came together to make every group that works together better, with better information, better capabilities, a better ability to serve the customers, then it all of a sudden clicked. And I think the other thing Tim's leaning into is it's a way to inspire, and it's a way to get alignment in a way that's difficult, perhaps with a one-off solution or something simply on paper. It's hard to see the power of how it comes together for the greater good.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Tim and Lisa. Kate, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so about challenges, right?
Yeah, like what sparked the conversation? And I love that Tim and Lisa already shared, like, hey, it started in Dallas, so it's like a full circle moment. What sparked the conversation
Yeah.
for you?
So for me, it's also sometimes too about like, it's always like in this journey, what I will be sharing about breaking the walls, connecting the dots, connecting people, bringing a space in the right time, in the right moment, and with right data for the collaboration. So in our case, for example, we started with the employee experience, but then we knew that for creating the full experience, you need to talk with customers. But sometimes it's really hard to get the approvals, to get their time, to push these boundaries that are in a big company. This is a big corporate like environment that I'm working in. So there is a lot challenges inside the service designer work to really have this kind of like a courage, but patience and different ways and options. So this is something for me that I would love to share, and also get some exchange from taking some other experiences and journeys and stories, and hopefully I will get it somehow during the conference.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. Abhishek.
Yeah, so earlier this year, right, like I worked on a really complex project. It's probably one of the most challenging ones that I've ever worked on. And the push was that we try to envision like an end-to-end import experience. So without getting too technical, it's a very complex domain. You know, when a package leaves a sender and gets into the hands of a recipient, it goes through so many different steps on the back end. There's so many handoffs happening. There's so many regulatory and other forces at play. So we had to really, step our game up and make it a really collaborative effort. We brought in, folks from all the regions, representing all the different expertise in one room. And then when we really immersed in our importer data that we had collected, like the primary research data we collected, we got to understand there was a lot of nuances in each region, in each product or service that kind of makes up that experience. And all of that information is so vast that no one really had one clear picture of this. And everyone has their own interpretation of what they think the experience is. And every team has their own journey map and, personas and everything, right? But no one had this one end-to-end view. That's simply because it's too complex and no one would be able to kind of imagine it at once, right? So we were tasked at kind of getting that end-to-end picture. And long story short, after we got through it, I had this aha moment that, there are several different topics which are so complex, journeys that you can't even imagine in, one go. And I figured that there's some framework, some insight over here that, even other industries or other people from other domains could find inspiration in. So I just started reflecting on this and trying to extract like what went on for like 6 months and then trying to synthesize that learnings, and that I figured like would be interesting. So when I started talking to this about, with different colleagues from different companies, it was very similar. Everyone resonated to how complex, a healthcare journey is or a banking journey is, right? And there were learnings that people were interested in that they could get inspired from and learn from. So I figured like I probably need to formalize this and probably share it a larger form. And that's what kind of sparked me to enter into to become a speaker at SDGC.
I think all of us really resonate with that experience where we find that particular problem and then we're looking for different tools or even guidance through all the vendors. And then once you receive that, you're like, hey, now I want to share it with so many more people so that they know when they get started with something similar.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll keep it brief, but similarly, I was in Dallas when it all started. So this feels very serendipitous, but it stemmed from what I'm sure most of us are encountering, where we have organizations that are very keen for digital transformation. But the immediate response, as we're responsible as service designers and strategists, is to ask, well, who's your audience? What are we designing for? And the response to that is always very interesting, because you'll have organizations, especially those who are in the upper echelon of the Fortune 500, 100 brands, that feel like they have a really good understanding of their customers. But when you really look under the hood and you have those candid conversations, you realize there is a huge market that is not being tapped into, and it applies to various industries. And this is really where the future adopter stemmed from this work, was that we realized there were invisible users or customers and employees that weren't being accounted for in our maps and in our data sets. And then here we are planning for these new automated agentic experiences, and yet there's a significant, I mean, we're talking about millions of folks that aren't accounted for in these designs that will inevitably impact these agentic automated experiences as well. And further to that, having the privilege to speak to folks on both sides of the conversation, from employees to customers, directly in person in our labs, was very insightful to gauge across various generations and cohorts the perception of what we're now seeing is our new digital experiences that are powered through, applied AI or AI accelerators, and the perception of what the expectations are as we are looking at building these features for customers, and how that's rapidly evolving as the technology is also evolving in real time. So yeah, that's where it all really kind of stemmed from, is just who's your audience, who's your customer. And it suddenly opened up this entire audience base that no one really had in this organization, and a few others that we worked with, had ever considered.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. I really love the term invisible users, that we kind of miss, like invisible processes as well. Thinking about users and participants, I'm curious, like through your talk, who is it that you're trying to address, and what is it kind of, without giving away, of course, any specific thoughts of your talk, like what do you hope for them to take away from your conversations?
For me, I'll just close
Can I
off that thought
volunteer?
then. I think for me, this is not an edge case when we talk about future adopters. These are tomorrow's customers, and they're not just Gen Z. They are across all generations. When we are proposing new experiences, whether they be digital or physical, we need to be cognizant of these evolving expectations. But in particular, as we look at something being very topical with AI, ignoring them is building this advanced technology, frankly, on sand.
Perfect.
From
Yeah.
my side, I can. Okay.
No, Kate, go.
Okay. Okay, so from my side, I can tell that I have two groups actually. One, these are service designers and how they can actually craft the journeys on themselves in a big corporation, in a big environment. And another one, it's a group of leaders of a change management or business transformation inside the companies, because they also need to understand what is the value of the service design, which is not so obvious, I would say. And this needs to be a right moment, and also the skills which are good indicated. There are some problems in many cases. Who is the service designer? What is the difference between service designer, UX designer, researcher, process architect, for example? Really important. So how to navigate with that? Being a leader or being a service designer. So I would say these are the two target groups that I'm thinking about to share some value.
That's incredible. So it's like who is doing the decision making, and then who is doing like the process itself. So bringing those two groups kind of together. Amazing. Anyone else resonate with similar groups, or you have different people you're addressing?
I was going to jump in.
Tim,
Like,
you were gonna.
I think we're talking to all of us that do this every day, right? Like, we're all service designers. We're all struggling with this. Like, multiple of you have expressed this idea. Like, this is getting more challenging. Like, organizations are getting larger. Like, whether it's logistics or healthcare or transportation or aviation, right? Like, it's all these things are getting harder. And I found like I struggle a little bit with like, how do you do this in this age of complexity? So I think like we want to speak to our fellow designers that are working on these things and help with some tools and approaches to say like, hey, here's one thing you could try that might help design in this new world we're living in. Take it, leave it, try it, do it. Like, but like here's something that might help tackle some of this complexity in this crazy world that we live in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
similar
Tim.
to Tim, like, sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Tim and I like to go together. Everybody has said it very well. So I'll just do one quick build off of Tim, which is there are forms of design that have very tangible outputs. where their design tools work really well for specific tangible outputs. For Southwest, we don't make our planes. We offer an experience and a hospitality experience. And that's about the amenities and the environments, but it is about some intangible elements like the way our people make you feel and the way all those things make you feel. And as Tim said, the service design, it can be a little bit challenging for how to prototype an experience so that you understand how your values will come to life. And some of those intangible elements, how your people will show up, how your people will respond. So we're really passionate to talk about mock-ups because not only do we have some tangible elements, but we have to bring together, people go from digital to physical, and we've got handoffs between worlds that are very complex to imagine, that can have risk in a real life operation. So we're really excited to talk about how we've broken down some of the complexity that has come with service design and share some of those with all of you, and hope to learn as well. You all have some great talks planned. I'm excited to learn from all of you because we still continue to get it wrong from time to time. And so I do love that everybody is leaning into service design is really hard for all of these reasons. And I'm excited to have a community for which we can all learn from.
So thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, so I guess like we all agree that, you know, our industries are getting complicated. The way to offer experiences to our customers are getting more, and they're demanding more and more, rightfully so. So I guess like the two things that I'm trying to make sure everyone takes away from our talk is, one is that how do you offer a seamless global experience? Like you don't want to be, you know, if you order an Uber in the US versus when you're visiting India, you expect a similar experience, right? More or less. And how do you do that when there's so much complexity in the service that you're offering, and your users don't really care how complex the process is? How do you keep them away from the complexity? At the same time, how do you handle disruptions, right? There's going to be some disruption, you know, based on whichever industry you're in. The frequency of it might change, but you still need to be able to respond to the disruptions that happen. So the two things I'm trying to tackle that people take away from the experience that I've had on the work that I've done is that how do you understand a disruption, its impact, and how do you respond quickly enough that you're still able to deliver a seamless experience, that nobody even knows that a disruption happened, and the customers and everyone is happy, and you know, probably operations is not on the back end, but how do you not make the end user realize that there's been a disruption? What's the easiest way to navigate that disruption for everyone? So I guess like those are the two things that I'm trying to deliver in my talk.
Perfect. And we're hearing this repeated theme that yes, systems are getting complex. And I am also curious in terms of the theme of the conference, which is business transformation by design. How how are you thinking about it in a business transformation, or from a, I guess, more decision design perspective? What does that look like?
I'm happy to share a little bit, and it's still on the theme of the power of a mock-up. And our company, Southwest Airlines, and I hope everybody has the opportunity to fly us at some point, is in the midst of a transformation. And you all, if you've read about us, probably know that we are drastically changing our business model and many elements of our experience that have held true since we were founded. And one of those is moving from an open seating model to one with assigned seating, which is something many other airlines do, but that is new, and it's a huge shift for us. And we will be launching that next year, but that fundamentally changes everything we do and how we operate and how we serve customers and what the digital experience is and what choices and decisions look like. So it's something that kind of involved every group in the company, not just ours. And it involves designers, it involves technology, it involves operations. And so we had a lot of disparate work streams because we've got to break down complexity into some simple work streams to build requirements and to update our operating manuals. And one thing we did was we took all the inputs of what everybody was working on, whether you were on our digital team or in our operation or customer service. And we brought everything together in one experience to show everybody what it would look like when we start operating, from the time customers can purchase, to select their seats, to want to change their seats, to then change their mind again when they get to the airport, how our employees will navigate that. And we did all of that through some simple Figma screens and some pipe and drape. It cost almost nothing, but it allowed us to identify some problems. For example, in one case, we were asking employees to do 5 different things at the exact same time, which they can't do, or we need to solve for that. Or we had a customer opportunity that showed up at the gate that hadn't been solved in the digital workflow. We could have taken care of that sooner. So it allowed us to really ask some important what if questions. And we do the best that we can do? And how can we keep making it better? And did we all come together? And do we have great handoffs between each other as we would want? So it's an example of a complete transformation for our company, where we were able to bring together all different work groups, whether you were a designer or not, and collaborate and work together to make sure that we were transforming the way we would want to as a company, and helping each other work through all those opportunities to as a collaborative unit.
That's incredible. Thank you, Kate. That was such a concrete example. Like, I could almost see, okay, yes, you would have to bring in these different teams, and whom do you work with? So I'm already building the journey
Yeah.
map in my head.
There's a piece to this, and
All right.
it's not just with Southwest, it's with all the clients we work with, right? Like, you're on a journey to try to transform some part of your business, and you think you have a really clear definition of where you're going, right? Like, you think it's crystal clear to everyone, like it's written out, and then you talk to someone and you're like, oh, your definition of what this is actually wildly different than what I think this is, right? Like, we think we're on the same page, but we're actually working towards 2 different goals. And I think a big part of it is just aligning everyone, just like making sure that everyone actually has the same vision, and it's like brought to life. Like, you can see it in a way that, no, we're actually building the same thing. Like, this department over here and this department over here, like this executive in this part and this executive over on that side, like, are actually working towards the same goal, and not through any like maliciousness or ill intent, but just through like lack of coordination, like working at cross purposes to each other. Right? Like, if you can't get that done, like, business transformation is real hard to like keep moving.
That's so true. Totally resonate with that experience. Like, unless people build a mock-up, you can actually not see what they're imagining in their minds. And as soon as they do, you're like, oh my God, this is completely different. Let's align.
I would love to take it from here
right.
because I see some similarities, and actually what we started to do to align, because the alignment is actually the key when you are trying to get to the transformation and being aligned between so many different teams, is that our service design team started to do a North Star experience map. And of course, at the very beginning, it was just like, okay, but why we are creating a future experience instead of like, indicating the pain points, creating a current journey? We need to understand, yes, at first, and then create solutions. But when you have so complex environment and a big company that are so many leaders and they want to just move forward, create a new, AI projects and everything, sometimes it's good to start with something which is a North Star, and then showing that there are some gaps here that we need to validate. We need to come back. We need to hear our users. We need to hear employees. We need to go to customers, because there can be a risk of taking a lot of budget, for example, here for the AI or for some other technology. So the North Star experience maps were something that we started, and it needed to get like many different leaders on a one table to talk about the vision. So I think that this is similar to the cases that you shared. And now we have this like a beautiful full experience map, and hopefully, it will be aligning more and more people. But of course, it needs also some operations around to really regularly coming back to it, updating based on the data that you are collecting day to day from the company and from the customers.
I relate to all of this so much because for FedEx, if you pay attention to the news, there's been so much transformation that's happening in the last 3 years than ever before. So we used to be legacy as a legacy company, like different operating companies. We've merged several of them together for more operational efficiency. So there's like, mergers, acquisitions, tech rationalization, this process updates, all of this happens every day. So even when you ask like business transformation, I was like, isn't that every day? So the purpose of service design is to keep up with that all the time, right? And at the same time, making sure we don't really surface the seams that exist on the back end to our customers. There might be like two applications getting merged together, two processes getting merged together. There might be some kinks that surface on the UX side when the user uses a certain application or a certain kiosk, but how do you not really, how do you identify and catch them sooner, that it doesn't really manifest on the user's end, right? So that's like a constant that we do. We keep always looking for those opportunities and making sure when we are going through a transformation, we surface that soon enough that it's not a surprise towards the end. So that's like happening all the time, and something that even in our, so we have several regional teams as well. And if a regulatory update happens on some end, you might have to make quick fixes so that you're not really too late to kind of get to the market. So that may mean making one-off tools for your customers, but at the end, you need to make sure that aligns with your global vision for what that seamless experience should look like. So it's being proactive and making sure you're, staying up to date about the transformation and making sure your customer experience kind of keeps up.
Amazing. Yes, those are some very important points to keep like being proactive and constantly keep adding. Otherwise, people make the experience journey once and they're like, hey, let's execute it for the next 3 years. And we don't realize it's constantly changing. Right. Ryan, did you want to
Yeah,
add
lastly,
something?
I think is trust as another indicator, signal, metric, ways that organizations need to factor it into their process, whether it's trust that they need to establish stronger internally, but more importantly, with their end users, their customers. And so that I would just build off of that there's a huge opportunity that this was once table stakes. These were sentiments. But now what we're seeing is, again, when we look at some of the more digital oriented experiences, trust is now a significant indicator for organizations to mitigate in terms of where they sit with that trust barometer versus almost the technical tooling components. And so how do you start to establish that? And service design, critical thinkers play a significant role in helping organizations understand that value, how to measure, and how to design against it.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. As we are talking about value and how we're measuring against things and how things are adapting and changing, did your talk also, like from your first draft that you submitted, and going more into the talk category, but has it changed over time? Has it updated over this period of the couple of months? See some
Now,
smile.
I would say the essence of the talk hasn't changed, but the narrative arc, if you be in an industry for long enough, you pick up so many jargons that, no one really outside of your circles would understand it. So I guess like that's what's my, refinement has been. It's more about, how do you make it relatable for someone? No, no one really understands outside of your domain what you really do. So how do you really simplify all of the complexity but deliver the essence of what you're trying to say? You want to communicate that it's complex but not really bother them with like all the regulatory stuff and all the jargons and everything that you speak in your company. So my push has been to make my talk more relatable and less effort on the audience to try to understand what we're trying to say. So it's more about the narrative arc and how do you make it more simple and relatable rather than any major overhaul to the idea that I'm trying to say.
Fine. Thank you.
Little thing, I don't know, Lisa, the first time we talked about it, I think we probably had more ideas than we could possibly fit into 30 minutes too. So like it was a culling down of here's a bunch of stuff we could throw against the wall that we could potentially including this, like having done this for years. And Lisa, you being like, Tim, like I don't, like we can cut that. Like let's focus this a little bit. Culling, like getting narrow. 30 minutes is not long to cover like in-depth topics. I'm sure everyone else has found this too if you're trying to craft a good story to fit in that time period.
Yeah, I think Tim and I had the spirit of what we wanted to cover, and we needed to add good scope around it. And then, as the point was already made, really making sure we were sharp with the narrative. So Tim was here yesterday, and we were like, hey, let's run through everything, make sure we're real smooth before we turn over our material. And maybe one person on the team knew we were meeting to do that. And so Tim and I go to practice, and the entire team shows up to watch us practice for our very first time together. And so that was a fun surprise. But the nice thing is that was kind of their feedback. It's a great topic. It's an exciting one, but we had the opportunity to sharpen our story and be more specific with some of the stories that we were sharing around some of the principles that we thought were important. So what we are adding with the feedback that we got is just more of the stories behind the topic that we've learned from over the years, whether it went really well or whether it was something that we personally learned from and why, and how we've used that to change how we work.
I think in my case it was like similar. So my team helped me to reframe the format of the talk from being like academic, sharing like, yes, this is what you need to, this is must have, this is what you need to ask inside the company, some checklists and tools, etc. To the personal story, like from my perspective, showing as a first survey designer, and then what happened, like even like as a empathy map. We all know the empathy map probably, yes. So like the format changed, but the most important things that I want to say, maybe not, but I think the format and being more specific, which is that I'm always trying to, and not using the jargon. I think here I agree with you, Abby. So that's important. There will be a lot of different people from different areas listening to us, I guess. So we also need to empathize with them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I like as I was hearing y'all, and in terms of just thinking about this talk that you're going to give on the stage, and storytelling becomes such an important aspect as you're condensing all of maybe years of knowledge into 30 minutes. Um, Tell me some fun moments that you probably had as you were discussing in the background, or maybe a personal experience that really stood out to you.
I don't know, I was not expecting yesterday to like present our talk to 40 people without having practiced it before. So that's always a fun thing to be like, hey, here's the thing you've written notes on but never actually presented. And there's 40 people standing in front of you now, like go for it. I was joking with the team down Southwest that sometimes in my past I've done like presentation practice by designing presentations for other people that they've never seen before, and then making them present those. Like first time you've ever seen the slides, you have to go through it and present this presentation. I don't know, it's fun practice to like stay on your toes and like figure out how to craft a story and a narrative arc connecting, I don't know, disparate images, text, charts, things that you've never looked at before. It's always fun.
This sounds like an impromptu presentation.
It's like a little bit like a presentation.
Well, we were planned. Everyone else showing up, and
was not planned.
To add on to the fun of what happened, I was meeting with a few folks from the team, and someone was sharing their screen, and an Outlook pop-up comes up, says, "Everybody be ready to help Lisa." And I was like, "What are you helping me with in 10 minutes?" And all of a sudden I see everybody scurrying around in our main area. And not only did they surprise us by watching a presentation we were not planning to share in front of everybody for our first time, but they had brought in chairs and invited everybody to come. And so I was, you know, a little bit worried, but then it ended up being great to Tim and I to practice in front of people that could critique us and help us figure out our talk track and get really sharp. So it was a fun surprise this group gave.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you had like a mini salon night. Is that what we call it? And then everyone just shares their thoughts about your talk. That's really fun. Anyone else want to share any fun moments that you had during this process?
I kind of go off of, my process of, making any presentation I work on is like, what are the 5 key things or, 6 key things that I'm trying to communicate, and then work, elaborate it more, write a script, and then see what visuals go with it. And there's a back and forth between the script and the visuals. Then I kind of test it out on I grab someone, colleague or a friend or someone, and then just try to hit them with the outline and see how they respond. And then, the next iteration of it. So, um, I guess like there were instances when, I was losing them, and I get like, okay, you know, that's too much detail of an example for them to really follow along. Maybe you just need to make it a little bit more relatable, right? You need to use anecdotes that people have really, or maybe even kind of heard someone go through, right? Someone not receiving their package is not a very alien concept. You get it. But what happens when, you were trying to ship it to someplace else, right? Like it's in a different country, and your item gets stuck in customs. These are things that you could be saying to make it more relatable, without getting too complex about what are you trying to communicate, right? Is it about customs? Is it about this regulation? Why I'm not supposed to, what am I supposed to focus, right? That's the thought that goes in an audience's head. So my idea is then to kind of make it more relatable, make it more simplify some things, elaborate some things. So it's a iteration, and I kind of enjoy, you're making these little pitches to people and looking at their reaction, and then going off of, okay, I think you need to tone this down a little bit, and elaborate this a little bit. So I find it fun, and there's so many phone calls that I've had with so many people, and then grabbing my wife for a second and then just pitching her like, how does this example sound like? It's not really fun to be around me when I'm preparing for a talk, but hopefully people didn't really mind it.
All right. Now, of course, for anyone who's preparing for a talk, there are some masterclass points here, like have a preparation session or do practice before audience, see where people are dozing off, and then reiterate your talk and add a lot of amazing storytelling elements. Kate or Ryan, do you want to add anything here before we go off into the Q&A session?
I think you grasp it well for the tricks and tips, and I think also like I don't have any fun story. I think like there was no fun story around, but for the tips and tricks, I feel like after years that if you really want to share something which is real and you are authentic into that, I think the speech will be something which is natural. And even if you are stressed because there are people, lights, etc., if this is not artificial, it doesn't like has like many elements that are really complex in the speech, but this is your story. You will really make it and you will nail it. Yes. So this is my like experience into like speeches, that I'm trying really to not to over complex and trying to be authentic into that, because that will make me also a pleasure of speaking, not only being stressed that there is a big audience, etc., and everybody's like thinking what she will say, or if the spouse does, it means that she's so stressed that she will not take it further. Yes. So like maybe this is something from my heart to share about like speaking.
I would love to build off of that, Kate, because I think that ties into kind of the thinking I had as well, where you genuinely have to be passionate about the topic. You feel that connection because you spend a lot of time with it, and you're gonna, as many of us did, share that thinking with folks in your network and colleagues, and so with that, it's just important to genuinely, authentically connect with the topic that you're sharing, and being open to capturing other people's perspectives while shaping, your perspective along the way.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. Now we will head off to the Q&A. We have a couple of questions that we can field here. Let's see. First is just about recording. Everyone's excited about your session. So many people can make it. Yes, the recording is available on LinkedIn and YouTube. The links are right down below. And this is our question for our speakers. You've given a lot to the audience. What do you hope to take away from the conference yourself? Or what are you most personally excited about to experience at the conference?
I think we all get to be audience, right?
Sorry,
Like we
go
all
ahead,
get to sit in all the other talks. Like I'm also audience, so I'm hoping I give a little bit, and then I get in equal parts from the rest of the audience that's there. Like all the other wisdom that everyone is sharing. I'm both sides of the fence, and gonna enjoy both sides of it.
Yeah, I guess like I look for the same excitement that it's very interesting to know, right? Like I'm just so immersed in, at least for me, like I'm very immersed in the work that I do, the industry that I'm in, and I don't get to have like outside perspective about other industries, right? What happens in ed tech or what happens in like healthcare. So when I meet someone, I'm very, very curious to know, how do they handle design or service design, and what are their process like? Do they have buy-in from their leadership about what they're trying to do? All these sort of things, it's very interesting. So everyone's learnings is basically you can take something away from it and apply to your own practice, right? So I feel like this is my going back to school and getting to learn a lot of exciting stuff. I mean, I enjoyed my school days, so just really passionate about the field that I'm in, and always open to hearing different ideas and perspectives of what other practitioners do.
Plus one to that, and I hope that after, for example, my speech and the other speeches, I will open some discussion around some challenges, and people will come and tell, hey, Kate, I also had this problem, and I had this kind of options and this kind of stories and this kind of actions I taken. So maybe you can try that out. Yes. So this is kind of like a learning on cases experience that I'm actually really excited about, and I wish that it would be that our speeches would trigger to people to come back to us and tell that, hey, let's talk about this specific part that you shared. So apart from learning from the others, this is what I'm like imagining, visualizing my North Star experience from the conference will actually be.
True. Is SDGC like a milestone for you, even personally or professionally? As I was reading that question, I'm like, oh, where does it stand on your personal milestones?
I mean, it's special for me because I've been engaged with the local chapter of SDN, and even while I was in New York for my studies and everything, that's where the first time I engaged in the community, and it's given me a lot. So personally, it's very exciting for me to know that I'm going to be presenting at SDGC, and seeing familiar faces even during the conference, right? So it means a lot to me.
All right. Thank you, Abhishek. We have one last question. What's the next big question or challenge you'd love to explore? I think this is such an amazing question. Thank you, Sabine, because it's that you might find your next collaborator at SGCGC and just come together to build something new. So, what's something that you're exploring now and you want to learn more about, talk to more people about, and potentially collaborate with?
I'll go. This actually to me, I'm excited to build off of this. Started off as an article for Touchpoint with SDN. So this really helped build the momentum in understanding, was there validity in understanding a group of potentially invisible users across industry. And I think for me, going back to the point that everyone raised at the conference, being able to test that thinking, gauging, folks globally from various industries, and getting a sense of, are we seeing similar patterns across those industries, across certain cohorts? And going back to the art of what we do, trying to simplify the complexities that we're always navigating, and trying to figure out, the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that, our peers are using to help simplify these complex problems. So I'm hoping to build off of the momentum that really just started from that article.
I love that it started as a Touchpoint article, so you're like touching different SDGC community spaces and going off that. Lisa,
Yeah,
you've
like
been
Ryan mentioned, I'd be excited to see, how people feel about the talk, and, what do they agree with, what do they disagree with. So probably take it from there, like look at the reactions, and then probably think about the next challenge.
yes, definitely. Lisa, you've been awfully quiet. Can I nudge you a little bit?
Well, everyone has had such good responses. I guess for me, the next challenge is technology has evolved so much, and our customers are very eager to have self-service capabilities. But for Southwest and our brand, our people are often what sets us apart and makes the difference. So I think the next big thing for us to think through is how to use technology in very intentional ways, but how really to make sure our people are our differentiator, and they're providing that outstanding hospitality in conjunction with all this technology, and that we are using each for the best and highest purpose. So for us, that's really how we're thinking about service, and how people and process and environments all come together, and we maximize each.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Tim and Kate with this. Yeah.
I don't know, on the consultant side of the fence, like I have the privilege of like working with multiple different industries, multiple different clients, and seeing service design play out right across different domains. And I'm getting more and more interested the longer I do this, and like, what are the larger societal impacts of us intentionally designing services? Like, there's some really great things for society that have come of this, of like this more intentionality around like designing the processes and systems that we go through. And there's some real negative like externalities that are coming out of companies doing this in intentional ways. And I'm getting more and more interested in trying to like unpack those two things and how they connect with each other. So I don't know, it's a big answer to your question, but that's where my brain's been lately.
My brain is too in a really big transformation, that I feel this transformation keyword is just, it's constantly happening from some time already, and it will be happening in the future. So how to really prove the value of the service design connected with really different areas inside business, not only like implementation itself from the design perspective, but how to really bring us even more to the table of a strategy, of a vision, of like the very first moments that you are creating some ideas for to go forward. So to make us being in the table, so this is my next step, even more being in on the table that it was so far, or like I would say earlier in the earlier tables. So hopefully the value of the service design will be growing inside but not only my company. So this is a huge thing, yes. But the influence needed to be more crafted and more visible, so that we can actually be here like in 1 year and 5 and 10 years still with a service design area growing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kate. And with that, we are coming to the end of the conversation. Any final words? Are you excited for the SDGC conference and to meet each of y'all in person?
Of
I'm really
course.
excited. I'm really looking forward to, meeting a lot of people and exchanging ideas. I guess like this is like the incubation hub of service design and celebration of service design as a practice. So I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you. Uh, Thank you so much, everyone. You shared so many insights, and I was trying so hard not to actually make you give the talk while I was asking you the questions. So appreciate all of you sharing your incredible journeys and processes behind how you're giving the talk. And everyone who's watching this, please come to SDGC either in person or virtually and attend these incredible talks where you'll take away the mastery behind the industry of service design, and hopefully you all can apply it in your own practice, and as well as be able to collaborate or give feedback to these amazing people who are sharing with you. So thank you so much, everyone. And with that, bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you
Thank
in a
you.
couple weeks.
Take care.
And as we end, we just have one special code for you, which is the SDGC tickets, which are at 50% off in person. Our partners are sponsoring this, so please scan the code. And then just fill in the form, and you will be one of the lucky winners who probably gets to attend SDGC on 50% off. Also, if you're a student, you have a lot of coupons and codes. Go to the website, check out your tickets, and looking forward to see you all at the conference. Bye bye.